It didn't waste time, like no time. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Read with TEMI. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time, we started off reviewing a book, Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson. It has been a beautiful time and we've been growing together and we've been learning together. So today we'll be looking at the second episode of the book, Who Moved My Cheese. For recap's sake, we would go over some of the things that we talked about in the previous episode. We said that cheese could be something that you hold dear to your heart, something that you want, something that you desire, something that is of high value to you. And we said that the maze is a place where you go find the things that you want in your life. It could be the organization you work in, the community you live in, or the relationships in your life, basically. Yeah, so we established that having cheese makes you happy. When you have those things that you want, when you have the things that you desire, it makes you happy. You feel good about yourself. That when you find your cheese, it makes you happy, you feel secured. It gives you all the best feeling that you can ever have, knowing that you have the things that you want. Yes. So moving on to today's episode, it says, the more important your cheese is to you, the more you want to hold on to it. Do you think that is correct? Do you agree with that? Sometimes Hem and Haw would take their friends by to see their pile of cheese at Cheese Station C and point it with pride, saying, "Pretty nice cheese, huh?" Sometimes they shared it with their friends and sometimes they didn't. "We deserve this cheese," Hem said. "We certainly had to work long and hard enough to find it." He picked up a nice fresh piece and ate it. It's human nature to want to flaunt the things that you have in front of your friends. You feel like, I've worked so hard for this. It's okay to flaunt it without even recognizing the pride and arrogance that subtle just creeps into your heart. Afterward, Hem fell asleep as he often did. Every night, the little people would waddle home full of cheese, and every morning they would confidently return for more. This went on for quite some time. After a while, Hem's and Haw's confidence grew into the arrogance of success. That arrogant way of feeling like, I deserve it. It's always there when I need it. I can use it whichever way I desire. It's okay to let people know that I have everything that I want. So that arrogance of success, that feeling of being overconfident that I have something, I'm good at this thing, so everybody should bow before me, knowing that I am so good at this. Okay. Human nature. Soon they became so comfortable, they didn't even notice that was happening. That is the point. Sometimes we do certain things that we are not conscious of. Pride can be so subtle. You wouldn't know when it's getting into your head. You wouldn't know the point where you're becoming arrogant because you feel, I have everything I need. I'm so good at this. I am better at this than the others or than the rest of them. So that was very, very subtle pride creeping into their hearts already. As the time went on, Sniff and Scurry continued their routine. Now, there's something I observed about this book while I was reading. It's the power of routine. Yeah, the power of routine. You can be so consistent in doing something every day that it becomes a part of you, either negative or positive. So routine is very powerful. So if we want to be successful in life, we need to cultivate this system of routine. What are you going to be doing every day to make your life better? What are you going to be doing every day to become the better version of yourself? So routine is a very powerful element in the scheme of things. They arrived each morning and sniffed and scratched and scurried around Cheese Station C, inspecting the area to see if there had been any changes from the day before. Then they would sit down to nibble on the cheese. One morning they arrived at Cheese Station C and discovered there was no cheese. They weren't surprised. Sniff and Scurry had noticed the supply of cheese had been getting smaller every day, so they were prepared for the inevitable and knew instinctively what to do. So these guys were so smart. Small though, but they were smart. So they were already observing the pattern that is like this thing that is happening. This cheese that we are getting, the supply is getting really short, or the supply is growing really short. They already observed it. So it was as though they were prepared for what was coming. It boils down to our everyday life. It boils down to our everyday decisions. It boils down to our sensitivity with things. It boils down to having foresight. You see something, you look ahead and you say, okay, I'm on to this right now. But if this doesn't work, how do I respond to it? How am I going to man over this situation? How am I going to, find my way around this situation? I see this coming. So how do I respond to it? So Sniff and Scurry were already being proactive about the situation. Now let's see what happens. They looked at each other, removed the running shoes they had tied together and hung conveniently around their necks, put them on their feet and laced them up. It's time for battle. The mice did not overanalyze things. Now that was something very spectacular and admirable about Scurry and Sniff. They already knew before now that cheese is getting low in supply. We don't know where it's coming from, but it's getting low in supply. They didn't stay crying, they didn't stay murmuring, they didn't stay complaining over how the supply of cheese is getting really low. They already had a plan. They didn't overanalyze anything. They just knew this is happening. What are we going to do about it? What steps are we going to be taking? So that's something that we can learn from Sniff and Scurry. To the mice, the problem and the answer were both simple. Really, the situation at Cheese Station C had changed. So Sniff and Scurry decided to change. You hear that? They both looked out into the maze. Then Sniff lifted his nose, sniffed and nodded to Scurry, who took off running through the maze, while Sniff followed as fast as he could. They were quickly off in search of new cheese. They didn't waste time, no time. The minute they knew that this wasn't working, the minute they knew that they were low on cheese, they started to make new plans. They started to change as the situation changed. They didn't stay crying, they didn't stay complaining. Later that same day, Hem and Haw arrived at Cheese Station C. Now we're going to see how these characters respond to the same problem. They had not been paying attention to the small changes that had been taking place each day, unlike Sniff and Scurry. So they took it for granted. Their cheese would be there. They were unprepared for what they found. How many times have we been unprepared for the things that come at us? What? No cheese? Hem yelled. He continued yelling, no cheese? No cheese? As though if he shouted loud enough, someone would put it back. Who moved my cheese? He hollered. Finally, he put his hands on his hips and his face turned red and he screamed at the top of his voice, "It's not fair! Who would take it away from me? Why would things change? Why will I lose my job? Why would they tell me to take up this role? Why? But I'm so comfortable where I am. Why do I need to move? Why do I need to go out of this situation? Or why do I need to change? Why does this need to change? But I'm so comfortable here." That can be us sometimes. We complain about everything and we are so unprepared about everything. Haw just shook his head in disbelief. He too had counted on finding cheese at Cheese Station C. He stood there for a long time, frozen with shock. He was just not ready for this. How many times have we not been ready for this? When you tell yourself, oh, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this. How does this just come all of a sudden? I didn't plan for this. It can be us sometimes. Ham was yelling something, but Hall didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to deal with what was facing him, so he just tuned everything out. You know when you just snap out on everything? You just try to hide away from reality. The little people's behavior was not very attractive or productive, but it was understandable. Yeah, you just lost something, so it's okay for you to cry and complain, yeah? But is it okay for you to remain complaining and just stay crying? Finding cheese wasn't easy, and it meant a great deal more to the little people than just having enough of it to eat every day. Finding cheese was the little people's way of getting what they thought they needed to be happy. Imagine that thing that you have always had with you, that thing you hold so dearly, just disappears and you can't find it. They had their own ideas of what cheese meant to them, depending on their taste. So, having cheese was different for them. Like we said in the previous episode, cheese could mean something different for you, right? Cheese could be anything important to anyone, but it could mean something different for each of us. Yes. For some, finding cheese was having material things. For others, it was enjoying good health or developing a spiritual sense of well-being, which is very important. So cheese could be anything, but it could mean a different thing to each of us. For her, cheese just meant feeling safe, having a loving family someday, and living in a cozy cottage. Yeah, so for him, that was what the cheese meant. To him, cheese was becoming a big cheese in charge of others and owning a big house. You see what cheese meant for the different characters. Because cheese was important to them, the two little people spent a long time trying to decide what to do. Imagine that big change that happens in your life, something you did not plan for, something that you did not see coming. Imagine how you would feel about it. And imagine how much time it would take for you to get up on your feet and keep moving. All they could think of was to keep looking around Cheeseless Station C to see if the cheese was really gone. You know how you bury yourself in that particular situation? You just wish that, okay, maybe it's just in my head. Maybe something can happen. Maybe if I just stay a little longer, things will change or it will come back to normal. We just keep moving in circles in that situation and not wanting to move on from the situation. While Sniff and Scurry had quickly moved on, Hem and Haw continued to hem and haw. They ranted and raved at the injustice of it all. Haw started to get depressed. What would happen if the cheese wasn't there tomorrow? He had made future plans based on the cheese. The little people couldn't believe it. How could this have happened? No one had warned them. It wasn't right. It was not the way things were supposed to be. Hem and Haw went home that night, hungry and discouraged. But before they left, Haw wrote on the wall, "The more important your cheese is to you, the more you want to hold on to it." Now, we've read this part of the book and you can see a lot of lessons just flying out. A lot of relatable situations that you have been in, right? Complaining over something that has changed. Why does it have to be like this? Why should I do this? Why should I take up this role? I'm not used to this. Why are you making me do this? You don't want to move away from that situation. You don't want to move on from it, but you just keep hauling around in circles. You can see how sometimes we are like them. We are like the little people. We just get so depressed. We just feel like something has to, maybe if I stay a little longer here, it will come back to the way it was. Or sometimes it could be like Sniff and Scurry. You observe, you see the change coming in front of you. You are prepared for the unexpected. right? Okay, this is what has happened. So what do we do next? You see how the different characters respond to change. So I want us to have a reflection on this. Leave your comments on what you think about this episode. Leave your thoughts and let's just grow and learn together. It has been a wonderful time, and this is the point where we draw the curtain on this episode. Thank you so much for joining me on Read with Temi. Do well to like, to subscribe, and stay engaged to our YouTube channel. Bye for now. I'll see you on our next episode.